24-year-old Shantai Decote was sitting in a sterile white room surrounded by crying loved ones. She had said her final goodbyes and was ready. Then the doctor walked over to her holding a needle that would end her life. The doctor injected the needle and she saw a white light. This is all because of what happened to her 6 years ago. Shanti was standing in a Brussels metro station heading home when suddenly 2 suicide bombers detonated a high-powered bomb. Miraculously, she survived the attack but was left with severe PTSD that the Belgian government deemed incurable. Shanti was left with 2 choices, either to live with unbearable pain and suffering for the rest of her life, or take medical assistance in dying, otherwise known as MAID. This case of Shanti happened in Belgium, but in Canada it's getting out of hand, because in 2022 alone, 13,000 people died from MAID. To put that into perspective, that's 1 in every 20 deaths. And this number is increasing every year, with laws becoming more and more accepting of people choosing MAID. So where do you draw the line between people who should be allowed to choose MAID and those who shouldn't?
Your government's not trying to actively kill you, ours is. Ours is using MAID.
So the discussion of MAID started in the early 1990s with a woman called Sue Rodriguez. She was diagnosed with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS.
Rodriguez is slowly dying of ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease. It has left her barely able to speak, to swallow, even to breathe.
Her doctors told her that she was terminally ill and that death was just around the corner. Sue believed that she had the right to avoid the prolonged suffering that comes with having ALS, but at the time, assisted suicide was illegal in Canada, so she decided to take the state to court.
A long and difficult battle has come to a disappointing end for Sue Rodriguez. The woman from British Columbia has lost her court fight for the right to have a doctor help her kill herself. The Supreme Court of Canada has ruled against her request for a doctor-assisted suicide.
But what happened to her next is unexpected, because even though she lost the case, in 1994, with the assistance of an anonymous doctor, she ended life on her own terms, and her actions opened up a can of worms that could no longer be closed.
I hope that Parliament will act and allow those who are in my situation to benefit in the future.
In June of 2016, Canada's federal government, including Justin Trudeau himself, passed Bill C-14. In this bill, it stated that they are legalizing MAID for individuals with a terminal illness or reasonably foreseeable natural death. Then, 2 years later, the bill was expanded to encompass people without terminal illnesses. Let me say that again. People without a terminal illness. Now, this expansion opened up a whole new set of ethical dilemmas. Some people were concerned that we were going too far, blurring the lines between assisted dying and euthanasia, while others argued that it was about respecting individuals' choices and ending needless suffering. It's a complex debate with no easy answers. Now, here's a statistic that might surprise you. MAID is on the rise in Canada, and in 2021 alone, over 10,000 people chose it. That's enough to fill an entire hockey arena, and the numbers keep on climbing year after year. So what's driving this trend? Well, there are a few factors at play. First off, access to quality palliative care can be challenging in some parts of Canada, especially in rural or remote areas. This leaves some people feeling like they have no other option to escape unbearable suffering. Secondly, societal attitudes towards death and dying are evolving. We're talking about it more openly, and there are less stigmas around the end-of-life choices. And finally, let's not forget that Canada's population is aging, so there are more people facing age-related illnesses and lifelong disabilities. Now, it's important to acknowledge that MAID has a lot of critics, and for good reason. One of the major concerns amongst MAID critics is that individuals like those with disabilities or mental health challenges might be pressured into choosing MAID.
That works in the hospital approached me and asked if I had ever considered asking for MAID.
So it's 6 to 8 months wait list to get Ontario disability support, but it's only 91 days to access the MAID program, simply for having a disability and a poor quality of life.
It also puts more power in the hands of the government. For example, the government could technically use MAID as a cost-saving measure for the Canadian healthcare system. This would mean that the more deaths by MAID, the more the government profits. But it's important to mention that at the time of making this video, this is just a conspiracy theory and there are no facts to support this. There's also an irony in all of this. Canada has invested millions of dollars every year towards help hotlines and anti-suicide campaigns like this, but at the same time, they seem to be promoting MAID. But what are your thoughts? Let's continue the conversation in the comments below, and if you found this video informative and thought-provoking, then don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss out on future deep dives into important topics. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.